Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling, yeah. Street lights, people. Okay, that's all I got.
That's all we need, man. Darren, thank you so much, man. I know it's always a little bit of a pain to get the song going out of it, but it's just like, this is our thing. It's the show. It's all it is. We just break the ice. We get going. That's it. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. So
this is going to be good because I was just off mic. I was just talking about, this is the first show that I might not know exactly what we're going to talk about, but you're going to enlighten us, right? Because you've been at this for how long now? Your dad started at 20, almost 30 years now.
Yeah, I think about 28 years ago, All Temp was started, just for short form because it's a mouthful, All Temperature Thermal Installations Limited. But I've been at it, ever since the summers between high school years, but consistently I've been at it for almost 15 years now. So
was that the plan from the old man, or was that your plan, or were you on a different path?
Definitely a different path.
Okay. I'm curious. What was the other option?
So my parents, I think like a lot of parents, parenting my generation, they kind of pushed me away from the trades. Yeah. It's got ramifications still today. We have this labor shortage and all this kind of stuff that's always on the top of mind. But it was, kind of go down the path to use your brain, get an education, and then you can have a nice comfy desk job was kind of like the go-to, right? So,
well, I mean, 2 out of those 3 are still construction related,
right?
Use your brain,
right? Well, yes, exactly.
Get experience.
Well,
not the office job. That's the only difference, unless you become a site super of some sort, right?
Right.
Then you crave that.
Well, there's so many different avenues now. Like you can go into, you could be in the construction industry and focus on marketing.
Yeah.
You can focus on social now. You can focus
consulting.
Yeah.
Just coaching.
Yeah.
Like there's other people that have been in other fields that have figured out how to help you build your business better, right? So there's lots of opportunities, not just about swinging the hammer, but I think everybody starts swinging the hammer.
Right.
How long was your dad doing it for?
He was doing it ever since he was 18. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and my grandfather did it before him. So, the mechanical insulation runs in the blood. And my dad ended up in 95 getting laid off, but he was brought into the office before that.
Okay.
So he got a little bit of exposure to how to estimate and how to run work. They pulled him for that, and it got really slow at that time for the industry in general. So he got laid off, and he's like, hell, I can do this. So he just started up himself.
I love hearing stories like that.
And
that was right before the really bad recession that we had.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, like it would have been before my time. Like I would have been in school still. I didn't feel the effects of that. I didn't even know what was going on, right? No. In 95, I would have been, 10 years old. So
let me share the deets with everybody, right? How do you pronounce your last name?
Sloane.
Sloane. Oh, Sloane. Sorry, I thought that was a V there. Darren Sloane, All Temperature Thermal Installations Ltd. Owner, manager, 27 years the business has been around. www.alltempinstallations.com and Darren at alltempinsol.com.
Right.
Correct?
Yep.
And then on Facebook, it's All Temperature Thermal Installations. And then no Twitter, but on IG, you're all_temperature_installations. And then LinkedIn under your name, which is Darren Sloane. Cool. Where do we want to begin this? So what exactly is it that you guys do?
So mechanical insulation, we're insulating mechanical system components. So mostly, it could be we're insulating a chiller, we're insulating a boiler, we're insulating the piping associated with that type of equipment. We're insulating like the ductwork for an HVAC system.
Okay. My first question to you, I know majority of the work is commercial, industrial related.
Right.
I wanted to see it in residential.
Right.
Is it ever going to get into residential, or homeowners can't afford it?
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of cost benefit analysis I think that goes on, and it hasn't broken through yet.
Okay.
I think it will, to be honest, especially in some of these custom homes. Like I've walked into a couple of custom homes in the past year where they're like a small building.
I know. I've walked into the mechanical room and I'm in awe because I'm excited about how much pride there is in there.
Right.
The way it's actually built, assembled, and set up for service and future care.
Right.
It's done really well.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're right. It's almost like a mini condo, mini building. That's what it is, and it turns out great. So now they're applying it, and that you guys go in and you take care of it at that point for those certain type of builds, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we don't have too much experience in the residential sector, but like a recent project, we actually went in to fix up some insulation because it was just done like improperly, and it was condensating in the ceiling space of a house, you know. It like this house had its own chilled water system, so and what just wasn't done properly. It wasn't sealed, didn't have a complete vapor barrier, which can be an issue, especially in these months coming up. So
it's interesting because your scope, you're literally tackling building envelope.
No.
Well, no. When I say that, I mean you're dealing with thermodynamics about heat and cold exchanges and separations. You're dealing with ductwork that has to stay cold or hot on one
Right.
side, and then it has to stay cold and warm or whatever on the other side. So if it's not done properly, science class happens,
Right.
and starts to fail. So
Right.
that's what I mean is like you guys are taking intricate lines, and you have to be meticulous about all the workmanship that you do. And if it's not done properly, it starts to fail quickly because the system is being used seasonally.
Right.
That's what I meant by that, right? So so is it easy that you have, I guess, certain companies that will not do that extra care,
Oh, for sure.
and that's how you come across the problems then?
Yeah, like it's an easy line of work or industry to take shortcuts, I find. You know, like mechanical installation in a commercial project, it might be as little as 2% of the total cost of a project.
Really?
So that's where I kind of find it kind of funny because, you know, it's such a small portion of the overall budget for a project, but that's where you might see some of these shortcuts being taken, or but it's because it's such a small portion that I think it kind of gets relegated to something that's not as important.
It's kind of funny because in my early years of construction, when I was getting started, I was fascinated by heat loss calculations, right? And what I knew about ductwork is that tin men, right? Tin men and women, you guys are just cutting stuff up and banging it together and clipping it all stuff. But then you start discovering there's holes everywhere. Like it's not completely sealed. And then we started introducing paste, and we started to introduce all these other products and things like that. But there's education behind all of it. And so as a building wise, you're saying it's such a small amount of the budget. But
it can be. Sometimes it's more, depending.
But the cost analysis of if it's not done properly, you're wasting so much energy.
Exactly.
That it becomes a bigger cost analysis at that point, right?
Right. So I think that's kind of, I feel like that narrative that I was touching on there, where it's not really thought of prominently, I think that's kind of going away. I think it's a good time to be a part of our industry, just because you can see it everywhere. The world's going green.
Yeah.
You know, it's efficiency. Like no one is anti-efficiency. You know what I mean?
I love showing off my utility bills, right?
Right.
I love showing off that the gas is so low. I love showing off that water isn't that much consumed, right? Like I love showing off these numbers, especially to condo people with their maintenance fees, right? Especially here in Toronto, because some people's maintenance fees are actually higher than their mortgage payment. Which is absolutely insane. That's a whole other argument, right?
It's crazy.
But I love showing that, you know, you start showing in the height of a winter month, gas bills that maybe just tickle $200 in 1 month. So you're obviously doing something correctly in the way it's been laid out. So I love having those conversations with mechanical teams talking about how can we do this differently, better, still be cost conscious, but be so effective down the line.
Right.
That's where you guys come in.
Yeah, we're part of it, right? Like like it's a team effort. Like the proper equipment has to be chosen by the mechanical contractors or the engineers, and then it's got to be insulated properly to maximize the efficiency, right?
Would your dad have been part of the day of wrapping? I've done enough jobs in Toronto where we were wrapping pipes with the asbestos wrapping, right? Would he have been part of that whole, like they were doing it back then at that time?
That's a good question. I don't know if he actually did it himself, but he definitely would have
replaced it.
It would have been, yeah. Even we're part of projects where we don't actually do the removal, like an environmental.
No, you got to
contractor
get it crewed. Yeah,
yeah, like they'll do it, but we're a part of a lot of those projects where we do the re-insulation. You know, it'll get removed, and then we're making it whole again, insulated properly and with the new materials. But yeah, my dad would have been exposed to it for sure, and I think my grandfather would have probably would have installed it. So
well, I mean, it was technically speaking a good insulator,
right?
And as long as you don't touch it, doesn't go airborne,
right?
You're perfectly fine,
right?
but everybody touches it and it goes airborne, and then you're not perfectly fine, right? And then you won't know until later on in life,
right,
if something happens, right? So can you walk us through the process? Like, what are you guys doing? What materials are you using? How you guys working the joints and splits? I mean, I'm sure that when you walk in, especially if it's a more complicated building, it's a spider web at that point, right?
Right.
And now you have to tackle every line, right? Are you just chasing each line and figuring that out, or are you just tackling the whole project and just kind of going from it?
So it depends. Like we kind of have two branches. For lack of a better word, two branches of the type of work we're going to do. Like we're doing new construction.
Yep.
Where we're bidding on a project through a mechanical company, and it's going to be either built from the ground up, or it's going to be a retrofit or an addition to like a school or something.
Okay.
So typically what's done there, the building gets erected and the roof gets sealed, and once it's watertight, then we can come in and start insulating the supply ductwork, and we can start insulating the plumbing and then the heating systems, the piping and stuff like that. But if it's the other branch is kind of specific to actual facility maintenance, so we'll come in and maybe over time there's been repairs and insulation's been hacked off here to replace a valve or fix a leak, and we'll come in and just
patch it up.
Yeah.
Make
it good again. So,
and then I guess, are there stricter rules when it comes into schools and I guess commercial buildings, or like, I guess there's supervision or something like that? Or is there, I'm just assuming here that you guys, or is it still the same amount of work? It doesn't matter. You guys are tackling it. It's still exactly the same.
Oh, it shifts depending on the spec. So,
okay.
Definitely there's more specialty work when it comes to like a pharmaceutical facility or a food production facility. Like you might have different types of material that'll be used, or different thicknesses depending on the system too. So there's definitely differences, and even from the commercial sector to the industrial sector, our trade changes drastically.
Do you guys have the numbers? I'm curious. Do you have the numbers on when you insulate it? What are we containing? Like if you got a certain run that's running and you got a certain heat that's being exposed from it, it's not insulated. Once you guys insulate it, what are we saving? Like how much are we containing that heat in that line, or is that too difficult to calculate? I'm just assuming.
No, there's software programs that can calculate it.
Got it, yeah.
I could actually give you one example. So there's, let's say it's a 350 degree Fahrenheit steam pipe section, let's say 8 feet. So this is one of the best parts about that I like about mechanical insulation. I kind of geek out on this stuff, but it's like offsetting greenhouse gas emissions is one of the benefits of insulating mechanical systems. So let's say I think if I can remember the numbers correctly, a truck that's driven for maybe 32,000 kilometers, that might be a year's worth of driving, a pickup truck, that produces about 18,000 pounds of carbon dioxide.
Okay.
And that can be offset by insulating just 8 feet of a 4-inch diameter steam pipe operating at 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
That dramatic?
Yeah.
Really?
And to think of an equivalent measure to offset, like that would be like, I think it's something like planting 300 and something trees, or changing 300 old style light bulbs to LED, energy efficient LED light bulbs.
Yeah.
It's something like 350 light bulb changes, but 8 feet of insulation. So
that's a huge difference.
It's that's a particularly high temperature system too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it just shows you right there. I love seeing that stuff, and I love seeing like breaking out the infrared camera and seeing like the before and after, like maybe in a facility or something. We're in a hospital. They have all this steam piping. I love going there for the before pictures, taking infrared and then taking it after. It's so dramatic.
So the pipe itself originally would be what size diameter, and then when you guys add your insulation over it, what size diameter does it become at that point to reduce that?
So that for that specific example, it would be a 4-inch pipe.
Okay.
And then 2-inch pipe covering. So the diameter would be 8 inches.
8 inches.
Yeah.
And it's making that much of a dramatic difference.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. It's
and you guys aren't just doing 8 feet; you're doing the whole you're doing the whole system. The idea is that you guys get in there at the same time the mechanical team gets in there. And so you have the space to reach and get into all the nooks and crannies, right?
Right. But it's really something to take into account when you're looking at these other at existing facilities. They're looking for cost savings. They're looking for to try and
to me, it's a no-brainer. Why not just bring you guys in and do it?
Especially with all these sustainability initiatives now, like this is an easy fix, but it's sometimes overlooked a little bit. But I think more often than not now, people are starting to realize that it can do its part.
So the governments are actually offering for I guess high rise. They're offering sort of initiatives, or
I want to do a little bit more research into this. I think there is some rebate programs for buildings to implement sustainability initiatives. And I think insulation, I know like building envelope insulation is part of it, and like attics and stuff in the residential space. So you can get kind of rebates. And I believe there is an avenue to get some compensation with regard to commercial buildings as well, but I just don't know it exactly, but it's definitely an opportunity.
It's probably there. And I'm assuming that the buildings still won't reduce their maintenance fees.
Yeah.
They'll save the money, but they won't reduce maintenance fees, right?
Maybe.
It's just like, you can't take money away from a kid. The kid's going to always want to keep the money, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think I heard you talking about that. These maintenance budgets are from TTC or whatever it was before.
This is absolutely insane. And everyone knows that the common thread of the argument is like, if we don't spend it this year, we won't get it next year.
Right.
That's not justification to keep on spending.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
It should be like, why don't we improve this year so then next year is going to be less, so then we can improve next year and then keep on improving every single year. Could you imagine if you guys went into all these older buildings that weren't built this way or done this way and taking care of that stuff, what their carbon footprint would be?
Right.
Dramatic change.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's why I love this trade. Like it's easy to find areas where we can help. Like I'll give you another example. I was just in, and this is where you can find, some shortcuts getting taken that can affect the quality of an install.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a facility out east, close to where I live in Clarington, and it's 3 years old, brand new. Looks awesome from the outside. Looks awesome mostly from the inside too. But then you go into the mechanical room, and the one mechanical room has 6 pumps. Chilled water pumps. Okay. They're all exposed, not insulated. And it's like chilled water, especially, it has to be insulated. Not only just for the efficiency of the system, but for potential condensation issues.
Are they pumping more heat during winter months in that room to offset the coolness that's arriving in that environment, or no? Or is that environment getting that extreme to the point where you've got these...
For the condensation, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in the warmer, like the humidity level in the summer and the warmer temperatures are just,
you feel it's like walking into a greenhouse, or you'll feel the environment change.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not as conditioned in a mechanical space, but it is a conditioned space. But when that equipment is working to its full
well, it's a max potential or something like that. It's aren't you damaging the equipment sooner?
Oh, for sure.
By doing that,
by not having it insulated, you mean?
Yeah,
for sure. Like that's one of the benefits of our trade is you're protecting, you're increasing the longevity of equipment, because if it's gonna condensate, like in the summer, it's just got to work harder. Like a cooling system's got to work harder in the summer, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of maintain the operating temperature, and because it's working harder, it's going to be at a lower temperature, which is going to make it it's going to make it condensate more easily, and that's going to rust. It's going to corrode. Like we walked into, again, this is a brand new building. We walk in, you can see puddles.
No.
Like, and you can see the rust on the joints.
Darren, do you think it's done on, purpose? Like, you think it's done so then we'll have future service work for the building?
I don't think it's done in like that. I don't know if it's that nefarious.
Okay.
Maybe in some cases. I can't say for sure, but I think in this specific case, I think it's the rush to the bottom bid process.
And that was when you say a brand new building, less than 5 years?
It's 3 years old.
3 years old.
Right.
Wow.
And everything's fine now, but the life cycle of that equipment's going to be shorter. Who knows? It might be a year, it might be 2 months, it might be 10 years
but
shorter.
This is equipment that's supposed to last decades, right?
Right.
Technically speaking.
So, and the funny thing, and this is why I'm appreciative to be on a podcast like this, because even when we went in, I walked into this room because we were there for a different project. We're insulating a water line that got replaced.
Okay.
And there was a connection in this chiller room, and the building operator took me in here just to take a look at it. And then I noticed all the pumps that were uninsulated, and I'm like,
you spoke up.
I can see all the puddles and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, do you want this issue handled? Like, it doesn't need to condensate like this, where it's becoming a slip hazard and it's rusting the equipment. He's like, I didn't even know that was an option. I thought this is you just have to live with the condensation. It's just something that happens. I'm like, no, if this is insulated properly.
This is his title is what? He's the building site super kind of, or site manager?
So this is, it would have been like the building operator.
Okay.
Like, I guess,
right.
Manages the.
How does he not know that this was an option?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
so it was
thing,
just normal to have pools of water on the ground in a building that's supposed to be completely airtight and sealed and built properly. That's 3 years old.
All right. I think he, somebody like that probably knows it shouldn't be like that, but then to bring it up as a major issue, and then, and then there's these budgets and stuff, right? Like, then he's going to have to get money and get approvals. Because still, I submitted a quote for that. Who knows if they're going to do it,
So you can't walk in and see something that's wrong and not speak up or suggest here's a solution.
I can't help it now.
Yeah.
So I see it all the time now. Especially with steam systems, like I was just saying with that example with that 4-inch pipe, like if I see exposed steam, I'm like, that's so much energy loss. Like I had a post that I made on LinkedIn, and it was in a hospital, and they had some exposed steam valves and exposed piping, and it's so hot. Like I got the infrared photos of it, and it just got me thinking. I'm like, I wonder, like I could cook an egg on this. So I brought
on the cam, you got like it was that much of a heat zone.
Yeah, on the actual flange or the valve and the piping. So I brought in a pan and an egg.
No, did you really?
Cracked it on there.
I got to see the post. I got to see that.
Yeah, I got
And you actually did?
I got a video and I cooked it.
Did you make hollandaise sauce too, or what?
No,
eggs Benny by steam, right?
Normally I'm an over easy guy too, but like I just kept that one sunny side up, and
But that's sad that you can. That's also dangerous too, man. Like think about it. If the wrong person doesn't realize that,
touches that,
yeah, that's I'm assuming third degree burns, right?
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, I've had lots of burns, and our guys have had lots of burns. Reaching in, especially obviously in new construction, you're not going to have that issue because the system we're insulating the systems. They're going to be tested for leakage and stuff, but they're not going to be on.
Yeah.
But like when we're working in a existing facility and maybe they can't shut it down, you got
to be aware.
Like at a hospital, yeah, it's a bit of an ordeal. But
you guys got to get some like Predator goggles or something like that so you can see all the heat plumes, right? And see if it works. But then you don't see anything else, right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Wear those in the steam tunnels.
But I mean, it becomes, how big's the crew that you guys are working with now when you guys go in and take care of, I guess, a new construction versus repairing? Or like how many bodies you guys got coming in there?
I think like we did a YMCA, for example, and we might just have we're relatively small, crew of like 3 or 4 guys.
Got it.
A school, like we're doing an office, 1-story office building in Lindsay. We've got, 1-2 guys there kind of off and on. So our trade, we're one of the last ones there.
Yeah.
And we might not have the manpower footprint that some of the other trades might require.
So I want to ask you, is the industry aware of you? Like, do they realize how essential you are to the building process of construction? Some
do,
okay.
But some don't, or some know and don't know the extent of what we can provide. So for example, I was talking to a mechanical contractor actually earlier today, and we were talking about a project that they're bidding, and it has heat pumps on the roof.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's refrigeration lines that go in there.
Yeah.
And, some specs require the refrigeration lines to be cladded. So they'll have like an aluminum jacketing on it to protect it from the elements, not just the, bless you, not just the bare insulation, like the Armaflex.
It's always a good idea because UV will just beat that up, and over time you'll have to replace it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one thing we do all the time. But anyways, this contractor, they didn't even realize that, or they've never even seen it because it's not widespread where it's on every heat pump that it's done, but
it's funny you bring that up because whenever I've been in that situation where we have no space, so we have to park pumps on the roof, right? So you start planting those things where they're going to go, depending on the size of it, if it's 2 units or 1 unit or even a large unit, whatever, and you got all these lines running. My first thought, and it wasn't because of the education about what you guys do, my first thought was I just wanted to protect those cables because I'm just thinking about full sun year round.
Right.
And so I always have conversations about we need to design something to cover this up, like make it aesthetically pleasing, but it's also protecting that sheathing at that point.
Right.
So it's funny that you're bringing that up. There's an actual real purpose other than aesthetic behind it.
Like, are you talking specifically about the piping there? Or?
Yeah, just the piping itself, because the thing is, I mean, I just did a job 2 years ago where we ran all the lines to the roof. It was a flat roof application, and we ran all the lines up there.
Right. And
you're just seeing a spider web up there, and you're trying to get it all contained and organized properly. But then I'm like, we got to cover this stuff.
Right.
Like, we have to protect it somehow.
Yep.
Like, I mean, you imagine if you're on this roof all year round, and you'd have a gorgeous suntan, but the thing is, you'd be eating away at this material too.
Right.
Which makes it worse.
Yeah, and there's a few options when it comes to that type of install too, with like the refrigeration lines. Like, we typically do the aluminum cladding because on a cooling tower we'll provide aluminum cladding for something like that too, and it's just smaller diameter piping for a heat pump or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's cool products like K-Flex, that black rubber insulation. K-Flex is one of the manufacturers. They have a product called Titan. It's a K-Flex Titan pipe covering.
Okay.
And it's got like kind of a built-in like weather barrier, so you can just like one step install and it's protected, as opposed to just the regular K-Flex or Armaflex or whatever you use, because that stuff is just going to be gone in a couple of years.
I find it that it seems like you taking over third generation now, working on the business. I'm sure that your dad probably had a hard time or probably didn't even do it, the educational side of the business. But it seems like you're finding that you have to be more of an educator of this industry. Versus when he was doing it, it wasn't. It was just like he was getting the jobs and doing the work, but he didn't really want to speak about, okay, this is what it should be done, or I found this is what should be done. You're seeing everything and you're starting to educate people, explain that this is how it should be done.
Yeah, that maybe that's a good insight. I think specifically talking about my dad, he was more relationship oriented, and
yes.
I got to be, in this business, you're going to be relationship oriented no matter what, right? Yeah. Like, you got to work together, you got to communicate to construct, right? But like I kind of take pride. I like doing that. I like finding the data and trying to share it, and it's a way that I can help people and provide value. It's kind of.
Are you getting a lot of people that are just glassy eye, just glazed over? They're just.
Oh, sure. You get those. Yeah.
But it's just
some people don't care
because it's not fascinating stuff. But I guess it's if you got a data sheet and a spreadsheet or whatever, and you're just lifting it up and you're explaining that whole analogy that you explained about the car, that's fascinating. Then they kind of relate and connect it to the building, and they start realizing, wait a minute, there's a huge savings attached to this, right? If we did all this stuff properly.
Yep. Because like I think you touched on it again. Like my dad, I think it was different. It was just. It had business. And it had to be done, like obviously, in a lot of cases, but there wasn't really the need for the explanation. It was just, it was almost like even when I started in the trade, it was, I didn't take it so seriously. I was like, I got to do it because my dad's.
I'm wrapping pipe.
Yeah, I'm slapping on pipe covering, to make a few bucks. So that's how it went. But
it's a lot more than that. But
there's purpose behind it, and I like bringing that up to. Like our guys, like, I feel like it goes a long way for guys to take pride in their work and to actually enjoy what they do if they feel there's meaning there and there's a purpose to what they do. And like, I always try and showcase that, we help people. we protect people because we're covering like hot and cold surfaces. They're not going to burn themselves. Yeah. We protect assets like the buildings themselves and the equipment because, if it's insulated properly, it's not going to corrode. It's not going to condensate and cause mold issues in a ceiling space or something like that. And then we protect the environment through the better efficiency of the system too. So.
And we should be. I mean, like, we've got so many poorly built buildings going up these days. And like you said earlier, everyone's just raced to the bottom, and whoever got the lowest bid got the job. But then they're building it a certain way because they got the job. But now you're creating other problems as a result of it, when we should actually be spending. I honestly believe that for the budget that is allocated, you can build a far better building.
Right.
But you're not. It's kind of the same way of government tendering jobs.
You think the pockets are getting lines?
Do I think?
Yeah.
No, I know.
Right.
Right. But I just don't want to knock on the door. Right. Like
Right.
I eventually have to have bodyguards around maybe because I don't want to get spoken to, I guess, is the gentlest word I can use. Right. But I definitely think that, it's human nature, first of all, to take advantage of a situation. If you can take advantage of a situation, that's what, like you were mentioning, you've seen the work where there's possibilities of cutting corners so that you don't do the work. You do the work just good enough.
Right.
And then it gets approved and the building moves on. Maybe it fails in 5 years. Maybe it doesn't fail. Most likely it will.
Right.
And then you're called in and served. And then it becomes a cycle.
Right.
I don't want that. We should, I know a lot of guys, I'm more on the commercial, on the resi side, the custom. We built things to sort of, like, we don't want it. We want it to just be worn out, and we want it to almost just want a paint job. We don't want it to be rebuilt again. Like, I think it's disgusting that kitchens are being renovated after 10 years. Just because whatever, you've got the pockets or you've got the style change and you want to change everything. But no, that kitchen should last longer than that. Should last generations, right?
Right.
So we can build that way. We should build that way.
Right.
But that should come in commercial land too first, like especially when you're doing condos. Sometimes I get nervous when I look at these high rises. They're so high, and you start realizing, you talk to people and there's like 300 units in there, 300 families, 300 couples, kids. They're all on top of each other. You got these maintenance systems that are feeding everybody hot and cold, water, on demand, all this stuff. It needs to be running smooth. Yep. You shouldn't have any headaches at that point, right?
Yeah.
But are the headaches designed for future service calls? Are they done on purpose or not? We don't know, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it might actually come down to the culture, or at least part of it is the culture. Like, and we just kind of touched on it a little bit, where, at least I used to do it just to make money.
Yeah, we all started.
Right.
Yeah, we all started that way.
Well, and then at least for me, like, I've shifted where I kind of just want to help people, like. And this is where my expertise is now. Yeah. So this is the best way that I can provide value. This is the best way I can provide a service, and I can help make the world a better place, or however lame that sounds. But like, it's kind of true.
But it's very true.
But so I think if we shift, instead of our work just being about the dollar, about making money, like, if we can instill better values in the next generation of a construction worker, I think it will maybe help mitigate these issues.
I think it's happening, Darren. I'm totally, as much as I may have dogged on the younger trades, and I don't completely buy into the laziness side of that kind of cliche stereotype or whatever. I think that they have far more opportunities to learn that craft faster and to improve that craft. That's how I see them now, right? So they have so many opportunities to find resources that will help their craft and their business far better and faster than we did.
And also see the greater purpose of it too, right?
100%.
So
that's what it is. And so then that's what the driving factor. I think once they realize that, so if they, let's say in your trade, like you're educating the younger ones, they see that value of the energy savings. They see what the cause and effect of it is later on. They'll start to push it as well. They'll be an advocate for it at that point. So then all of a sudden we've got another one on our side, and they're helping us and get like that, right?
Right.
Should you be getting involved in the building spec process a lot sooner than you already are?
There's avenues for that now.
Okay.
But definitely, yeah, we definitely should 100%. And that's why some of our like some of our associations, that's where they come in, right?
Okay.
There's, in Ontario here, we have the Masters Insulation Association. of Ontario, and then there's this Thermal Insulation Association of Canada, which is TIAC. I actually volunteer on the board for TIAC.
Okay.
I represent contractors in Ontario.
Wow.
But so like that's exactly what that's for. You know, we want to have a unified voice to talk to engineers and stakeholders and make sure that, you know, our voice is heard and it's considered and the benefits can be realized.
Can you, I guess without stepping on any toes, can you like, who's got the best systems out there? Like, I'm just curious, mechanically speaking. I mean, we always hear certain names, but I'm just curious. I always rather just ask. Right.
Best systems?
Well, just brand wise, like who's making really good systems that work properly and last a long time, have fewer faults to them. I mean, without getting into the really expensive stuff, I'm not looking for like the McLarens of, you know, boiler systems or even chillers or all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to figure out who's actually doing really good product.
Well, this one might not be very popular, especially if you've got a lot of HVAC guys. But
yeah, I'm just curious.
Like from an insulator's perspective, like we don't like Victaulic piping.
Really?
Yeah. So first of all, it's going to be more expensive to do that because it's harder to insulate the joints and the elbows of a Victaulic pipe as opposed to like a smooth welded pipe, right?
Okay.
And you got to have special PVC covers if it's in an exposed mechanical room or something like that. And then it's harder to insulate Victaulic as well. So then you open up potential issues with chilled water per se. Like there's less room for error on an insulator's scope of work when it's something like Victaulic. So there's one for you. I know.
So I'm just curious, right? And you might get, I wouldn't say you're going to get hate mail, but I mean, if they're in this space, they might speak the same way. But I'm just curious, or even if they hear it, they might know it. I wonder if they do know it.
Like I actually like insulating Victaulic. I like how the PVC covers for a Victaulic. If you've got one Victaulic 90 going into a 45 and it's really tight, like the covers can kind of fit together like a little puzzle.
So it works.
So yeah, and it looks pretty nice.
Okay.
But there's definitely room for error, or less room for error with a Victaulic system. So that's just my opinion, I think, or it's what I've seen. So
are they giving you product training? Or are they just leaving you guys to your own devices and you guys figure it out on site?
Well, so we're unionized.
Okay.
So our guys are trained through the union. So that's obviously one of the benefits of having a unionized workforce is that we have the education. At least part of it is supplied.
Yeah.
By the committee and by the
that's
union.
The nice thing about unions is that they offer all that year round, right?
Right.
So any member can go in and take care of that and get that training,
right?
Updated stuff, which is great.
Yeah, but obviously, you need to add on to that. I think and the training on the job is more important, arguably.
Yeah,
so,
I'd agree with you on that.
But definitely a lot more of the technical side of our trade, which isn't always known. It's nice that training is provided through the school. Like our guys have to learn a lot of patterns, similar to sheet metal patterns.
Yep.
Like if we're doing like a squared around duct, you got to have that pattern. If you're going to have like a metal jacketing on top of that, like you're going to have that pattern and bend it properly and, know how to make a Pittsburgh end cap or whatever it might be. So
I'm still surprised and I think that all duct work on all platforms and all types of construction, including residential, should be wrapped.
Yeah.
All of it.
I see it more in the States.
Oh, really? They do that, eh?
Yeah, I see. Like I follow a few.
Did they do it because I guess they're primarily focused on the AC side of things instead of the heating side of things?
Maybe in the warmer climates, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be because I was looking into this maybe a year ago or something, and an air conditioner in Florida, obviously the life cycle of that is shorter than one in Toronto. I think it was something like 2 years or something like that.
Really? That's short. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're year round almost.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that again, I love bringing that, like correlating that back to insulation because, obviously that system, like that air conditioner in Florida is working harder because it has to work and working longer. And just, you can kind of compare it to an uninsulated system anywhere. Like it's going to work harder and longer to maintain its process temperatures or its set point temperature, and that's going to reduce its life cycle. So just like a different part of the world might have that effect.
Are there other details that you commonly use in your commercial applications that you would like to see get into residential?
Oh yeah, I would love to see more insulation. I see some beautiful work now, like you alluded to.
Yeah.
Like there is some good, especially on the social platforms nowadays. Like there's some good HVAC guys.
Yeah, they're showing off some really good work.
Yeah, like I don't know if you've ever heard of like Aaron Bond.
Yeah.
Like I've and there's guys like that. I love seeing them. They take real good pride in their work. You know, they got the metal behind all their installs and stuff like that. It looks cool.
And by the way, people, for a sheet of that metal, an 8x4, you could probably find it at, I guess, specific metal places around the Greater Toronto area, but probably any city anywhere. You're talking about $150 at the most for one sheet, and it does look pretty sweet, I think.
Yeah, just a nice little detail.
It just works really well, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I did it my own place, and I'm still debating whether I'm going to trim it out and frame it around it. Or if that's just going to be a little too much at that point.
Yeah, you could spend forever there just tweaking it to make it look awesome.
But I look at it more like I like that they're being conscious of service future visits. That's what I like. Like I can't stand having conversations with clients. Just park the furnace right in that corner, park the hot water tank right in front of the furnace, park the tankless right beside it on the side, and then somehow fit the manifold right next to it somewhere, and then have a nightmare for a service person to come in here later on, whether it's a plumber or a mechanical person, right?
Right.
Like you have to give justification for spaces on all these units, all the way around them.
Yep.
And lighting. Why do these rooms have to be so horror movie lit? You know what I mean? Where you guys turn on one light and it's a flickering, and I'm almost looking for a pole chain light at that point, right? I'm like, that not in today's day and age. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
It should be like a runway. As soon as you set it up, it's like turn on the light, everything's, and then now you can work.
Right.
You know, you can service and work. So that's why I was just thinking. So I'd love to see all of that come into Resi and have more installation going on. Because can you just imagine how much more savings you're going to have?
Yeah.
By doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see it too. We'll see. You know, I think some guys want to. Like I actually I've spoken a couple of times to Aaron there too, and he's kind of receptive to it. But again, you know, he's got or contractors like that have to justify that cost, and they have to pass that along. And in residential, it's going to come down to the end consumer.
But numbers wise, if you actually explain it to the client, do they not see the math?
Yeah, somebody should.
Yeah.
I would love to know like the potential cost savings of like a 2,000 square foot house or something. You know what I mean? With a certain type of system. It'd be interesting to see.
I mean, that's the whole point of, listen, boilers in my opinion are always better. Radiant is always better in my opinion. And then you have a secondary smaller furnace that handles the AC stuff, because I'm not a huge fan on ductless systems hanging on the walls in different rooms, because aesthetically they're not pleasing at all to the eye. Sorry, all of Europe and all of Asia, but that's basically what they do. And I get it, because they started on a whole boiler system. But working with teams here now, a boiler and a smaller furnace for AC. So we handle both of them, right? But it has to be designed a certain way where you're moving the air. Like the purpose of a furnace and the purpose of the radiant and everything like that is designed to have comfort within 1 or 2 degrees on every single part of the house. If you're not achieving that, then it wasn't designed or installed properly.
Right.
And then there's a fault in the system. So now you need to figure out what the fault is. And unfortunately in Resi, and even in commercial, everything's on theory. Everything's paper first designed, and then you practically install it. And if it's to the T, it should work, but sometimes it doesn't. And then you should be able to have room to modify it, to figure out exactly where can we improve. And then you improve it, so then you can have it last longer. And then also the comfort thing. I keep going, like the mechanical is the comfort side of the construction things, right? So you have to have that. Like you should be able to walk into a structure and not feel extremely cold or feel extremely hot.
Right.
It should just be comfortable, right? So there's a lot of educating going on with you guys.
Yeah, and there's got to be comfort for not only the person walking into these spaces. Again, I'm kind of go back to commercial side.
Yeah.
But like, there's also comfort for the actual equipment itself.
Yes.
So like the ambient temperature around a piece of equipment, that has some effect too on its longevity.
Yeah.
Like if it's in a extremely hot environment, it's gonna wear out quicker. Like the grease is gonna the longevity or the effectiveness of the grease is going to change in some joints or sealants and stuff like that. So actually somebody shared a study with me on LinkedIn about, I made some post about protecting the equipment, and I was referring to like condensation and the rust, the rust of a cold piece of equipment. And he was saying, well, what about the heat? This study shows that the ambient temperature around a piece of equipment, if it's too high, it's going to reduce the effectiveness of sealants and grease and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's cool. That's
that's actually true. It's very, very true.
So there's a few aspects that people don't realize.
Like, there's the filters. There's all kinds of things that are affecting the machinery that's going on, that's taking care of your structure. And it's not until it breaks down that it becomes a question,
right,
or a concern,
right?
Which is, technically you shouldn't. You should be prepared for it, right? I've joked on the show before. I was like, people should take the time to listen to their house breathe. And as stupid as that is, like watching grass grow, watching paint dry, you should literally sit in your house quietly. If you got kids, pets, or whatever, get rid of all of them and listen to your house breathe and try to get a better understanding of what is or isn't working properly. And you'll know right off the bat. I've gotten better with it, where now you've got sensors and you can do certain things, and now you can pinpoint certain rooms. You can go all over the third story basement, and you can balance everything now. There's a way to balance things properly. That comfort is really important. But then also sit and listen to the mechanical systems breathe, because they will make funny noises if certain things are going on, and then you start questioning those funny noises and find it, solve it before it becomes a problem.
Right.
But that's where you guys come in. This is where your professionality is, right? Like that's...
Yeah, and it's interesting. You know, I like how you worded that with like you listen to your house, and I wonder where it's going to go with technology. And we have we have AI coming to fruition here and stuff like that. Like I feel like there's going to be computer programs or AI platforms that are going to be able to listen to your house before it's even built. And like all these small little variables are all going to be accounted for when we have such, increasing computer power with these specific algorithms.
I would love to see that personally.
So, like it might actually take into account the sealant and the temperature coming off of this, who knows? Like they could, with the increasing computer power, like it could manage so many variables.
It's a little spooky, eh? It's actually kind of spooky, but good at the same time, right? Like you're starting to think about it will be able to read everything before it's happening and then make assumptions on what might potentially be. All of a sudden, now it starts to become HAL, right? At this point, all of a sudden it's like a HAL 9000 is telling you, well, Dave, the furnace is going to blow up soon, so get out of the house kind of thing, right? To that extreme. But I mean, it would be able to tell you, like right now, what homeowners to the extent of is daylight savings, change the batteries in your smoke alarm. That's the extent of our knowledge, right? When it comes to a homeowner, right? I don't know any homeowner that cleans out an HRV filter.
Right.
Like this is just regular maintenance stuff.
Yeah.
But that's where it goes back to listening to the house breathe, right? But you're right. I totally see all of that happening and being a part. I can see like systems like Ecobee and other technology-based apps that are getting connected now. It's gone are the days of just flipping a thermostat up and down anymore, right? I can see that being completely advanced.
Yeah, for sure.
And giving you a lot more information about what's going on in your house.
Yep. Yeah, based on like the energy output, used. Yeah, I like thinking about the tech side of construction too a little bit. I know it's going to be important. I'm trying to incorporate that in where I can now. Whether it's estimating software or whatever, but AI is gonna change our industry. I think like specifically when you think about specification. Yeah. Like you're not gonna in 5-10 years, like who knows, I could be completely wrong here, but in one reality, I can see us not reading a spec. You're gonna talk to a spec.
I could see that.
You just think about with ChatGPT now. Yeah. Like you can ask it questions and it responds to you in conversational English. Yes. So imagine you're like in our trade, for example, imagine we're walking on a job site, or maybe it's in the let's say you're walking on the job site You know, everything's there. You don't have your notes. You don't have your plan.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
You could just be like, oh, this 3-inch chilled water pipe. Like what insulation is required? And then boom, boom, boom. It's just gonna this 3-inch chilled water pipe is gonna require 1.5 inches thick.
I bet you guys are trying it right now.
Yeah, probably.
I bet you they're going on, since they went on a mobile platform like a month ago or something like that. So now I bet you their money, they're going on the job site and they're just confirming what's already been designed and confirming that it will work the way it says it's supposed to work.
Yep. Yeah, it's a consultant in your hand now, you know, like, so yeah, I can see. It's funny how technology it's kind of going a different way, I think, than most people thought. Like that when you thought, 20 years ago, it's going to take away the hard labor jobs, like I think you mentioned before on a podcast, like the bricklayer, it's going to get, or, but it's those jobs that are going to be harder for tech to take over.
Yep.
Because, you need an extremely efficient power source to have a human robot walking around. You know what I mean? Like it can be done. Like there's tech out there now where they're manipulating scaffolding or whatever, but to have that where it's so widespread that it can actually be doing a job, I don't know. But it's taking away like almost like the white collar jobs where, it can manipulate, it can research, it can do its own research, it can analyze data, and like that's the white collar stuff, right? Like so
well, it's going to reduce the office part of your trade.
Right.
Like you technically won't need the office anymore. Your office is going to be with you with a device.
You're almost not going to need engineers, I feel like.
It's true. No, it's very, very true, because the thing is, and I wouldn't doubt if there's some engineers right now that are using the platforms.
Yeah. And I don't want to say, like engineers, like they're not useful or anything by any means. No. But like it's going to be able to, like I can picture tech or AI that will be able to analyze current technology, current materials, current building codes, and then compile that into a specification based on what an owner or a stakeholder prioritizes. And it's going to be able to generate a spec based on priorities.
Well, I mean, we have scanning machines that are robots that are walking around and drawing out wall layouts.
Right.
Specifically where they're going to be. Dotted lines, door openings, fixed walls, load-bearing walls. That's already happening. You already have, this has been going on for years, you already have measuring devices that get attached to saws. So you don't have to constantly pull out a tape measure and a pencil. You actually digitally input it and it moves along the glide. And all of a sudden now you can cut it exactly, and it's cutting exactly that measurement. So all this stuff is like, you can start seeing window and door manufacturers already to measure, scan a framed house. We know exactly what every single opening is. Like that's already happening. So mechanically speaking, that's all math. That's all numbers. That's data that can be inputted,
right?
Captured and then inputted and then calculated and then spat out.
Right.
And here it is, right? It's done. So it's like like you said, it's kind of eliminating the engineer component of it, right?
Right.
Or the heat loss calculation component of it, because they're figuring it out for you.
Right. Like you're going to need to have checks and balances in place, obviously. And
of course.
It'll probably
but
be
that's your experience doing that.
Right.
Right. You're contributing to that. You're you're the teacher now.
Right.
A+, here you go. Right. And then just move on from there. But at least it makes your business more efficient. So then you can get onto other jobs sooner, but also complete current jobs faster,
right,
and more efficiently and better, probly.
Right.
So
because there's less lost in translation. I feel like too, especially like if we're going back to talking about a specification, like there might be a bunch of technical jargon in there, and how awesome would it be if you could just ask questions in regular conversational English and it responds to you the same way, so that you're able to complete it properly without having to, get definitions from a dictionary about what a certain spec.
It's so funny, like you're not the first person to start bringing this up, and I've always talked about how construction is always like a dinosaur. We're always last of the game when it comes to technology, but I think in the last couple of years I started looking at construction more as like compound interest.
Okay.
It's a slow and steady growth at first when you're just starting out.
Right.
But then all of a sudden there's a huge spike when it starts to compound. And I think that there's so much technology going on now that we're just going to have this huge spike contributing to the growth of the industry, which hopefully will just expand the industry, right? I mean, I think Canada is like a child in construction right now. Like, we have the potential to be so much bigger in construction because of our resources and what we have and what we can do, right? And I'm going to see the huge jump, like, because tech is going to help us jump.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're going to start seeing a lot of young people getting into trades because of that. They're going to be like seeing there's possibilities here. Like, I mean, I get that this is how it was done for decades and swinging a hammer and this is what all done. But now you're going to start talking, like, I was just recently at a business where I can't share it just yet, but it's got something to do with prefabrication.
Okay.
And I'm watching this unfold right in front of my eyes. And I'm like, this is 2023. And I'm like, this is basically 2030 shit. This is 2040 shit that's going on here. And when you start talking about the data and they start explaining it to me on what used to take this long is now taking a fraction of the time. And we're getting this out so much faster now. So basically, in theory, you can build 10,000 homes this much faster now.
Right.
Because of technology.
Yeah, prefab is going to be big. It's even, I'm seeing it.
But it's mechanically, like, there's smart mechanically prefabbed units.
Right.
They're already preparing for the future of it and also modular future of it.
Right.
So even if you're buying one section of it, and like I said, I can't talk about this, but I'm talking about it. The way I was fascinated by how you can just connect it to another one, and everything mechanically is already set up to the point of fire sprinklers and safety. It's literally plug and play. And you're like, this is insane, man.
Yeah.
But then when they started telling me the numbers of how quickly this is turning compared to what it was 10 years ago, this is insane.
Right.
And then the global reach it has. So I was really proud of the fact that this is happening in our own backyard here in Canada, which is great.
Right.
But it's being sold globally. And they're one of the leaders. And this is the future of it. So now you've got tradespeople that are working in conditioned spaces at a set pace,
right,
doing quality work and making sure checks and balances are all done properly.
Right.
And it's all being driven by, it's all data and computer. It's all engineer that designed all this software to put it all together. And you're like going, this is insane where this industry is going. So that's why I was comparing it to compound. It's just going to have a huge spike in it, I'd say, in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the saying? I think it's like overnight success is slow.
Yeah.
There's that process behind somebody who has overnight success that you don't see, right? And it's something similar. But it's cool. I like it. There's lots of cool tech.
So there's lots of opportunity, which brings me up to like, okay, so where's the future of your industry going? Like, how much better can we get? Or are they complicating the structures and the systems so much that it becomes more of a challenge or less of a challenge for you guys? Or are we kind of tapping out on how the systems are being built?
Yeah, there's definitely new challenges compared to 20, 30 years ago. Like now, for example, the building envelopes have been sealed like crazy where there's like little leakage, but we've seen a little bit of issues with that with our trade because that has reduced the amount of airflow. Yeah. So has in some cases increased the chance of condensation for chilled water piping or something. Yeah. So like that's a little one, and then you're gonna have to adjust materials for that. So instead of using fiberglass, maybe we're gonna have to use like the elastomeric insulation, which is like that black rubber. It's a better product. Doesn't absorb water. You can seal it completely.
More expensive, a lot more.
Definitely, yeah.
A lot more.
So, but when you pair it with some of these technologies that you're talking about, you can make efficiencies somewhere else, and maybe you can deliver an overall better product. So,
I'm a huge advocate about overall, not line items, man. I'll never argue line items. I go, get away from me. I want to see the overall. If it's benefiting other departments, it's benefiting the overall scope.
Right.
I don't care how expensive that one particular line item is, right? We're not talking about luxury stuff here. We're talking about practical mechanical stuff here, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think it's you fight for that at that point.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's an uphill battle. Like, I mean, you're not dealing necessarily with homeowners. You're dealing with site like supervisors and maintenance people and things like that. And then they have to explain it to their board and they have to get approvals and all this other stuff. So now it becomes construction by committee, you know what I mean? And then you got to wonder how many people on the committee actually know anything about construction, right? And then they're just looking at numbers and saying yay or nay at that point, right? Which becomes a challenge for you because you wish you could be there to speak.
right,
to defend it and go, guys, this is based on my experience. This is where we should go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's where it's a bit of a struggle sometimes, because a lot of times we're primarily a subcontractor.
Yeah.
So, we're working in these facilities through a mechanical. That's where there's a bit of a challenge, because there is that middleman relaying information. So I that's why I like to try and explain some stuff on LinkedIn or whatever, just so our mechanical partners can be more prepared when they speak to their customers.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it, insulation is a value add, and they can relay the best possible solution or the best possible product if they know more from our end. So,
are there any mechanical teams you want to shout out to that you like working with, or you just like them all?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with Black and McDonald. They're they're good to work for. I know I mentioned a couple buildings down here, Sill Apps. Yeah. We've done quite a bit of work there with Canadian Tech Air Systems. They've been a long time a mechanical partner of ours, and so there's a couple there. But
so when you see their work, you kind of get an understanding that the job's done properly, or you look at spec wise and like, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And and I think they appreciate a good insulator too, because, who's covering your work that you're doing, like a lot of the cases when you walk into a mechanical room, you're seeing our stuff covering your stuff. So it should be at least to the standard that you're operating at, right? Like that's where I sometimes laugh, where it's like, you want to make a shortcut or save a few bucks, but it can affect the overall appearance of your install and the longevity of your install too, right? So
if you got any kids out there, or some trades that maybe want to jump ship, like what are you expecting, or what should they know if they want to get into this segment of the industry?
Well, it's booming right now. Like that's
what I figured.
There's nobody, like there's like a handful of guys on the list in our trade right now.
Wow.
And I think something that people don't know is, our guys make 6 figures.
I was about to say, you guys make good money.
So like a mechanical insulator, like you're part of the local 95, like you're making just over $100K on 36-hour work weeks. So that's before you factor in overtime and all that kind of stuff.
Do you want to just repeat that, Darren?
I don't think people know that. So, but so
no, it's good money because it's good skill. And I mean, and it's not a terribly hard. It's not one of the hardest trades out there. It's challenging.
Yeah, you definitely there's different difficulties, I guess.
Yes.
Like there's no like heavy lifting per se. Like there is some heavier materials, but obviously compared to like piping and stuff like that, we're not using cranes to lift our pieces of equipment up, right? Like the insulation is relatively light. But what I would say to somebody who might be interested in it is, obviously you got to have a little bit of tolerance for that itchy fiberglass. I sprinkle it on my cereal now, and it's it's all good. It's a little added flavor, but no, it's something you got to get
in the spice drawer.
Yeah, something you got to get used to. But but it's not always that material, right? Like that's what's such a wide variety of materials we use. But there's like there's a good aspect of art. Well, there's an art in all trades, I think.
Yes,
me personally, in my opinion,
I totally agree.
But with ours, I think there's a certain level of flexibility to how it can be installed, because our materials aren't as permanent, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Like some of it is more flexible. Like if we're insulating like a chilled water pump, it's pretty intricate and has different grooves and circular and a valve and all this kind of stuff. And if you're insulating that with like elastomeric insulation, which is like kind of that black rubber that people refer to it as, like it can be kind of like a piece of art that you can curve around all the components of the equipment. So
that's skill too, right? Like, I mean, that's not your first day you get on there and all of a sudden.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
right?
Especially like a chilled water pump, especially like if you're gonna do that in rubber or an Armaflex, like that is a skill to make it look good and make sure it's insulated where it's completely sealed and it's not going to sweat. That's definitely
some of the new guys create dog's breakfasts.
For
the first time, and
that's a hard one because even elastomeric insulation, the rubber, it's a relatively new newer material.
Okay.
I'd say it's really become popular in the last maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I think so. It's gotten more since I've been in the trade. It's gotten more prominent, but it is more expensive. But it is just it's a great product. So, but you definitely have to learn. And the schools don't really. They're starting to provide more training on it.
Okay.
But it's something where you, like I had to learn from a special. We had a rubber guy.
Okay.
Like he was like the rubber guy. Like
I got the rubber wrangler.
Right. Like so I think a lot of installation contractors have that guy or that crew, like not everyone can kind of do the rubber equipment, but.
And that shows up on, I guess, the budgets that are there, or there are certain engineers or certain clients that are speccing that specifically.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So they see the value attached to it.
Yeah. It'll get spec'd specifically. And depending on if it's like a pharmaceutical, like depending on the type of facility too, like there might be a larger tendency to use that type of material.
Are repairs far more challenging
for that specific type of material?
Yeah, that material, even just a traditional installation. I mean, you guys going in to do a repair, is it a slightly different mindset, or you kind of just tackle it the same way?
Yeah, for the most part, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You just, there's obviously different things to consider. Like if you're doing a repair, you just have to make sure that you're butting up to the existing insulation system and sealing it appropriately. Otherwise, it could fail. So, but you're going to do that with a new install too, when in between sections and stuff like that.
Are there any situations that you came across that it doesn't matter if you got in there at the time that you wanted to get in there because you're being allowed to get into every nook and cranny, but is there a situation where something has been built that you couldn't get to all of it?
Yeah, that
happens, right?
That's an issue. Yeah.
Okay.
That's one thing I've talked about, I've posted about on LinkedIn, where it's like, when you're at your like pre-site meeting, maybe you're the mechanical contractor, the general contractor. It's definitely something to like consider, leaving enough space for insulation or scheduling certain parts of the install where you're allowing for insulation of a certain area before you put equipment below it or something like that, right? Like you got to kind of consider that.
But are you fighting inspections at that point where?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I'm not gonna say it's easy.
Yeah,
because the stuff's got to be tested too, right? So
the system's got to be tested, and yet you guys got to be wrapped, and then you can't get into a certain. Or you try to hire the smallest guy that you could possibly find, or smallest hands, or whatever it is, right?
That's what it comes down to a lot of times.
So you got a 6'4" guy coming in, you're going, listen, you're not going to be that valuable, man.
No, you're sliding in there and you're like pulling him out by his feet. So
show up with a tool belt and a jug of Vaseline or something,
Yeah.
and then we can get you to do the job, man. But
Exactly.
yeah, I mean this has been amazing, Darren. Like this is totally new to me, and like next time I've been in a mechanical room, and I like those spaces because I like going into those, like you said earlier on. They're sometimes a work of art, man. Like they're just done properly, and you appreciate the work that's been put in there, right? Including the installation that's attached to it, right? So we covered a lot. Was there anything else that you wanted to share? You want to talk about?
Not really. I think there's one thing I want to talk about, but I know we've been talking about it forever. But it's just like.
It's a construction show. We all talk about construction, and still people that are not in construction don't understand how we can still carry a conversation. About construction.
Yeah. I could talk forever probably, but I think that's pretty good. I think the construction worker per se, it's definitely evolving, and I think we have to take care of each other out there. So I think the health of the industry members should be considered more too. I'm big on making sure that you're taking the proper rest and recovery when it comes to our work. Like it's a pretty demanding job.
You're challenging environments, right?
Yeah,
they are on your body too. Breathing and just exerting, working. It's challenging.
Yeah, I think when you think about careers, like an athlete, just think about the type of recovery an athlete goes through. Like they've got a huge team, obviously, which we can't match, but like they're going to...
Would be nice.
But like, I would love for us to take kind of components of professional sports teams and apply it to construction teams. Wouldn't it be awesome if your shop had like an ice bath?
Oh,
and like you could really properly take care of yourself and recover. Like
feet,
I would
knees,
love to see that.
back,
Yeah,
specialists, massage.
no one wants to be crippled. I think that would help a
Yeah.
lot too with for retention.
There's a lot of physical demands on every single tradesperson that's working on. I mean, there's certain trades that are not that physically demanding, but there's still some physical attached to it.
Yep.
And the thing is, everyone just kind of shrugs it off in their 20s and 30s. And then they start realizing, well, that shrug actually hurts to shrug it off.
Right.
It still hurts, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you do. I agree with you. You got to take care of yourself. I've always said it. I've done it before. I've had massage therapists come on the job site and I'm like, here you go, set up 2 tables and start doing it, right? Like take a little break, take a half-hour break.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Right. I've done it before and everyone thought it was a joke. I was like, I'm not joking. I'm going first. I don't care, man.
Right.
Like, it's just because I know how demanding it is, right?
Yeah.
Plus on a hot summer day or a cold winter day, like it's even harder on you, right? Like your muscles are tense, everything. And now you got to work and you got to lift things, you got to move things, it's challenging, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we all got to watch out for each other. Everybody wants to start the day. Everybody wants to end the day.
Yep.
And you're right, 100% that the industry is it's moving fast, and there's also plenty of opportunities. So I was glad to hear that you were saying that there's a good paycheck behind this.
Yep.
Great paycheck, right?
Yeah, and I know we talked earlier about how it shouldn't be all about the paycheck, but people have different motivations.
Yeah.
So if that's one of your motivations, that's great.
But there's a lot of learning opportunity here too.
Yeah, and it's a purposeful trade too.
Yeah.
I really believe that we're protecting people and places. So
It's awesome, Darren. Okay, we got to still do the 12 questions. If Angelina, you do me a favor and find them. Because I've never memorized them. I kind of have them in my head. But Darren Sloane here, All Temperature Thermal Installations, LTD, www.alltempinstallations.com, and Darren at alltempinstall.com. And on Facebook, it's All Temperature Thermal Installations. And then on IG, it's all_temperature_installations on IG. And LinkedIn, you're posting more on LinkedIn, eh?
yeah, I'm Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm trying to maybe up that a little bit. I think there's a lot of potential with social. So
we just did a couple of rounds. Oh, thank you very much. So everything was all over the place. All the rules changed. So now I finally got it. Sorry about that.
All good.
People like these 12 questions. So
yeah,
ready, Fritz?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
What's your favorite construction word?
Favorite construction word? I think probably protect. I'm going to go back to that one.
It's a good one. What's your least favorite construction word?
Shortcut. And shortcut, I mean, when it's
not Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, yeah. And like when it's affecting quality, let's say.
Yeah. It's true. Because it's motivated by money.
Right. Like efficiency is a different thing than a shortcut. You know what I mean?
Yes. What turns you on in construction?
I'd say helping people.
What turns you off in construction?
Having to pay to get paid.
Having to pay to get paid. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Taking legal action just to get compensated. That sucks. That's
happen a lot?
Not too much.
Happens more in residential, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sure, right?
You guys just get delays.
Yeah, you're floating.
You're floating 90 days, if not more.
Yeah.
That's scary sometimes.
And then you have the occasional, in all temps 30 years, there's been a few times where it's big lump sum that's just not coming or not coming without a fight, at least. So.
Welcome to construction.
Yeah. So.
What's your favorite curse word?
I got to go with the F-bomb. I think so.
Of course. What's your favorite vehicle? Anything in the world?
I think I'm going to go to my childhood car, Dodge Viper RT10. I'm not a big car guy, but that was just that one sticks out. And
they only did 2 generations of it?
Yeah, it wasn't around too long. Well, all that torque was just too much. So
technically Shelby's last design vehicle.
Okay.
I think it was his last design vehicle.
Okay.
And he did a good job with it.
You're a car guy?
I'm slightly a car. I've got my favorites.
Right.
But it's just like I'm a huge fan of Carroll Shelby.
Okay.
A huge fan of what he did. I like that he kicked Ferrari's ass, even though Ferraris are a certain stigma or whatever attached to it. But he just had balls, right? So whenever he designed things a certain way. And then when he came out with the Viper, I was like, it's refreshing to see balls back in the 80s.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because balls were in the 60s, 50s, 70s. but they disappeared for a little while and then they came right back, right? And it was Carol that brought them back, right? So
Nice.
What's your least favorite vehicle in the world?
Gotta go with like the Volkswagen Bug. You know,
The new generation crap.
any of them, I think. So. The one that, if it's transforming into a transformer, maybe it's okay.
All right. What construction sound or noise do you love?
I think just like the medley of like guys chirping and talking and the music going. I think, you know, when there's nothing too loud going on, you can kind of hear that stuff. I think that's kind of cool.
It's a nice vibe. What construction sound or noise do you hate?
Just that high pitch in some commercial mechanical rooms. You got like a high pitch, like whining. You got to wear the earplugs and, you know,
The air or no, the drill?
some
tools.
equipment. Yeah.
Okay.
Like equipment
All
running,
right.
you know, either that or grinding maybe.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt one day?
I think I'd like to do something in the arts, like write or draw. I actually wrote a kid's book during COVID.
Did you?
Yeah. And published it on Amazon.
Nice.
But that was just kind of like just to see if I could get something out. I'd like to actually maybe do something seriously where I could do some sci-fi.
Share the title of it so people can go on Amazon and buy it?
Solo the Rocket Ship, it's called.
Solo the Rocket Ship.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a kid's book. But I wrote a little poem for my boys and then got a freelancer to do the illustrations and away we went. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
How long did it take you?
To write the poem, it took me like an hour.
Okay.
But then like to do the storyboards and all that kind of stuff with like the illustrator, like that took, I think, like a couple months or something like that. But just kind of back and forth, not like working on it all the time, but
Congrats, man. And now you want to work on science fiction?
yeah, I got a thing for space. So I you know, something like a graphic novel or a comic book or something would be cool.
Well, you got all the mechanical know-how to throw in that moving machinery.
They're going to be well insulated spaceship, you know, so
What profession would you not like to do?
I think it's got to be like daycare. I love my boys, but like looking after like 23-year-olds, like that's a superpower.
Last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
This is an interesting one, Manny. I feel like you could have a whole podcast on
Just
on
on
this,
that
on this
one?
last question with everybody. But I tend to think that it's like I like to think of, you know, making the most of this one and only life or something. But if I'm having a fun thought experiment and I go there and there's a God, maybe just you did good. Are you ready for the next round?
That's it. That's all you need to say, man. Pleasure, Darren, having you on the show, man.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much, honestly, to enlighten everybody. And I'm sure that you'll probably get reached out. Like some guys will probably reach out and might want to hop shit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if anyone has any questions about insulation, you know, I love talking about it. You know, it's a passion of mine. So just reach out. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
No problem at all. Thank you so much. You reached out and we got talking right away. And I was like, I'm fascinated by this, man. I'm fascinated by anything to do with construction. So it was good. Thank you. And everybody, check them out again. Darren Sloane over at All Temperature Thermal Installations and www.alltempinstallations.com. Darren, reach him at Darren at alltempinstall.com and All Temperature Thermal Installations on Facebook and all_temperature_installations on IG. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
That's it. We're out of here, Angelina.